excited about this event. Everybody is comfortable at home in their warm houses. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and get things started here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to PNP Live. My name is Heidi, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator at Politics and Prose. Thank you for joining us and tuning into this format where we continue to bring authors and new books to you. I have the pleasure of introducing our event this evening, and I am delighted to welcome our guests, Candice Iloh, Amyra León, and Deborah Taylor. You can click the link that we're going to drop into the chat to get your own copy of Candice's book, Everybody Looking, and Amira's book, Concrete Kids. If you have a question for our guests, you can click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and add one there. At the end of the chat, our guests will have time to answer some of your questions. You can also upvote the questions that you like and want most answered. Now on to the event you're waiting for. Candice and Amira are going to start the event off tonight with a reading and performance before they delve into a conversation with PNP contributor Deborah Taylor. Please let me introduce our guests before we begin. Candice Iloh is a first-generation Nigerian-American writer, teaching artist, and youth educator. She has performed her work around the country, most notably at Nuyorican Poets Café in New York City, the Women in Poetry and Hip Hop Celebration at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum in Baltimore, and as part of the Africa in Motion Performing Arts Series at the National Museum of African Art in Washington, D.C. She's a graduate of Howard University and holds an MFA in writing from Lesley University, a National Book Award finalist, and a Michael L. Printz Award Honoree. Everybody Looking is her first novel.
That's right.
Yeah. Amyra León is an author, musician, playwright, and activist. A graduate of NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, her work fuses music and poetry through powerfully transparent performances, focusing on social inequalities and communal healing while celebrating love, Blackness, and womanhood. She believes that the art of listening and honest conversation are the primary tools for lasting change. Her aim is to empower communities to believe in the significance of their individual stories. And in conversation with Candice and Amira is Deborah D. Taylor, who recently retired from the Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore, Maryland. She has chaired and served on many American Library Association committees and on the National Book Awards jury for Young People's Literature. She was named the 2015 recipient of the Coretta Scott King Virginia Hamilton Award for Lifetime Achievement. She's a reviewer and an adjunct professor teaching young adult literature at the University of Maryland College of Information Studies. It is my pleasure to turn the event over to them.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Candice Iloh. I'm really happy to be here in my house. And I chose a section in my book that I really love, and it takes place when Ada is in her freshman year in college. They call me by every name but the one my mama and dad gave me when I was born. Running up and down the court, catering to musty butts and sweaty balls, you'd swear my real name was Shorty, Nunu, or the African chick if you took the team seriously. But the only reason why I do is because the coach makes sure I get paid. And on some days, basketball practice was the only time I felt like a woman. You'd swear they'd never seen a woman the way these idiots act every time I step into the gym, each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for practice, wearing the same thing I had on last time, whistles, stares, comments, an ongoing game between them to see who can wear me down first, not knowing I'd already been stupid enough to say yes once. Ayo, I'm only gonna let you call my girl Shorty once, aight? Derek says with a wink, chucking his sweaty towel at me. Wishing he wouldn't call me that, I start to yell back and protest. But coach has this stupid rule where I'm only seen and not heard until practice is over. Says there's only one coach running the team and it definitely ain't nobody wearing panties. So I pretend not to hear, turn my back, and ignore his fake attempts to claim me. Practice somehow ends a half circle around the now full basket of sweaty towels set in front of me, the team talking about the party. A half circle of jokes flung around amongst players, mapping out how much ass would be up for grabs. A half circle of plans targeting available fresh meat, how to get it, who could get it, what it took to get it first. If you want to get first dibs on a freshman, you got to walk up to her, right? Walk up to her real smooth with a cup in your hand, right? Because you know bitches like free shit, feel me? Explains Elliot, point guard in between daps. You walk up to her, tell her you heard all about her, put your hand on her lower back, like right above her booty, make her think she the only one in the room. Make her think she's special, like she the only one you want, right? When she asks what you heard, just tell her you don't believe the hype. Just tell her you rather she show you the truth. Son, that was the corniest shit I've ever heard. You can't tell me that actually works. These are college women. They're not falling for these corny ass lines talking about how you rather they show you, Derek says, winking at me attempting to earn points. You gotta be too busy to notice they even there, because you're busy and shit. Then bam, slide in the DMs with all the jokes. Let them know you not pressed, but then have them laughing. Nope, wrong again. Oh yeah, well, it worked on that shorty from Brooklyn. Elliot shoots me a look. What's her name again? He pauses, snapping his finger. Oh yeah, Sophia. I don't know if it's Sophia coming up in conversation or Derek being stupid enough to share his weak game with the team as if he believes that's how he got me, but suddenly the gym is much smaller than it was before. And the sweat stink of all the players becomes my own, coating the insides of my nostrils and all of my teeth. Well, we all make mistakes sometimes, don't we? I blurt out, louder than planned. The whole team freezes, turning toward the useless thing they suddenly realize is still standing here listening and wait for Elliot to respond with something clever. Well, we all know what it's like to slide through the campus hole from time to time, don't we? Elliot replies, locking eyes with me in between handshakes. I hear fast steps between my heavy breaths coming from behind me outside, heading far away from the gym, my fists tightening around my bunch of keys, each one squeezed between fingers just the way I'd learned on the news. Always ready for attackers, strange men I don't know on the street. Derek's life spared by the sound of his voice calling my name, pulling me alert just before rushing to block my path. Come on, Slim, slow down, it's just me, he says, finally catching up. That's supposed to mean something? I cut. Well, you've been in my bed, so don't. I cut him off. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You're no different from the rest of them. What? Because I was talking about women with the team? Come on now, he pleads. Because you didn't say anything when Elliot called Sophia a hoe. Well, how do I know she ain't one? He asks, a stupid smirk infamously growing across his face. Because she just isn't. Nobody calls you a hoe, even though all you and those assholes do is talk about all you and those assholes do is talk about is getting girls. Because women are women and men are men, and they shouldn't be out here trying to do what we do. I told you your mouth was going to get you in trouble, he continues. You don't need to be out here trying to save hoes like Sophia unless you want people thinking you're one too, he says, reaching for my waist. So what if they do think it, I say? Is the whole world going to hate me too? Thank you.
Hallelujah. Wow. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Amyra León. I am the author of Concrete Kids. I'm so happy to be here today. I do many things, and so I will be doing many things today as well. You can't see it, but I'm going to be playing piano. I'm going to do a few pieces from Concrete Kids, and then we'll move merrily along into a beautiful conversation. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I should have got a bookmark. I miss going to the bookstores and getting free ones. Yeah, these dusty pieces of paper I'm putting in my beautiful books. Hope you're somewhere laughing, feeling warm. Pardon me as I find this piece real quick. Just want to have it open. Here we go. Okay. Take a deep breath with me. That was beautiful. What an honor it is to be here with breath in my body. What if all I did was forget how to breathe again? Let them keep spilling my blood. Ooh. What if all I did was dream a dream they had for me? Sing like the caged bird sings. Oh, my love, let's go on the run. Oh, my love, let's go on the run. Oh, my love, let's rest beneath the heavy sun. We write our names in the concrete, just in case morning comes early, just in case we start disappearing, just in case the moon don't shine and there ain't no melody in our cry, just the absent ache of becoming. We write our names in the concrete to claim what is rightfully ours, to manifest a legacy they said we could never know, to reclaim the history they tried to silence. The revolution was jazz in response to violence. They could not take the rhythm from our bones. They could not disintegrate the melody in our marrow. Brass and gospel, funk, rock and roll, they may steal the land, but they will never capture the soul. We write our names, we write our names, we write our names in the concrete. Line the track with our heartbeat, beating the life back into the ground where all of our kin seem to be. We write our names in the concrete, dreaming of the day we are finally free. Oh, ooh, 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 free, that thing they say I ain't, that thing that's choking me, that thing I hold on to in the vision of my sleep, that thing that keeps me grounded, that thing that keeps me free, that thing that has power but does not bear a face, that thing that tells me my time and place, that thing that keeps us yearning, that thing that keeps the rich dissatisfied, and the grass always greener on the other side. I don't know what to do with the hunger in the pit of my stomach. Did you ever know that thirst is something that water cannot quench? I saw the river walk into the ocean, and I begged for the horizon to kiss me soft until the moon returned to this night sky. There were no stars, only floodlights. Flood in my room. How easily we become, despite the odds and reason. Ain't it something? Freedom is not a hope, but a memory that lives inside of me. Freedom is not a hope, it is a memory that lives inside of me. Thank you.
That was really amazing. Both the reading and the music. It's a wonderful way to kick off what this great conversation that I'm looking forward to having with these two amazingly creative women who've already given us much to think about through the work that they've produced. I want to start with you, Amira. I was looking at the description of the Pocket Change Collective, and it says a series of small books with big ideas from leading artists and activists. Why do you think it's so important to be so intentional about the connection between art and activism?
Honestly, I think it's really important we allow them to be one and the same, you know. We're curators of time and space. At the end of the day, we may not all have the headlines or the copy of the 1970s newspaper or the auntie who's still alive to tell us stories, but there was a song that someone loved and someone carried, you know, and there were poems that carried the leaders that whose names we'll never forget, you know. And so I think whenever I think about it, regardless if you're talking about relaxing on a beach somewhere, there are people who have never known rest. So there's no uselessness in any genre or any creative expression other than the art of being alive. And I think that being alive is a really important part of the active part of activism, you know. And I think that we're called here to really capture life and moments of survival and moments of heroic arrival, you know. And really, we're just here to capture what breath will no longer be once we have left and once we've given our message. I think it is important for artists to recognize that regardless of how they identify, they are doing that work, you know. And that has been a new thing, you know, with all the tides shifting now. It's nothing new to the people who've been doing this work and working in the community and who have experienced, you know, life in its grit, you know. But I think a lot of people for the first time are recognizing that their time at the mic, their time on the guitar, their time, you know, just in everyday conversation with the person who's coming through for them is opportunity, you know. And yeah, so I just think it's important that artists really allow themselves to recognize the opportunity that we have as people, no matter how big our audience is. You know, your audience can be a handful of people, and I know what a song has done to me, even if I'm the only person who's ever heard it. I know what a poem will do. I know the way words land. I know what a good sermon sounds like, you know. And so it's like, even if it's one person, recognizing the value in the individual living people who are experiencing you, who are building your career, who are waiting there for you, and knowing that that is an active impact in someone's life, regardless of themes. And then if you are going to talk about revolution, if you are going to talk about gun violence, if you are going to talk about violence against every kind of body, you have to take responsibility. And yeah, I think, yeah, just knowing that there's a responsibility, there's a way, there's a tenderness, and there are human beings experiencing it, listening to it, and creating it. So yeah.
And Candace, your book, Everybody Looking, is a testament to that. Because if there's ever a book that celebrates the healing power of creative expression, it's your book. And
Wow.
And you know, I'd really like you to speak to that, because that every page of that book is a testament to that idea of how much healing can go on when you give over to, when you have the opportunity to express yourself in a creative way.
Thank you. The thing I think about the most as an artist, in many times, is the fact that somebody has to be caring for our healing through the times that we're like, you know, breaking things down and making these major shifts in the way that we do things. And alongside us carrying stories as artists and like documenting what's happening, artists also just are like a balm. And I find that like I'm always just thinking about the fact that while we're tearing things down, we need to be building things up. We need to be building up how we'd rather see ourselves, what we wish our family dynamics might be, what we want to see in our communities. And I think that, artists and activism being hand in hand, I think that like we're doing both, right? So we're creating opportunities of healing space, but we're also carrying these stories like for generations to come. Like when we're gone, this is like art is how they're about to find out about a lot of things, right? Like I don't remember a lot of the things that I learned in textbooks in high school, but I do listen to the songs that my parents listened to. I do read poems out of books that existed before I was alive. And so I believe in artists taking up that opportunity, to create responsibly, and to realize, like, every time you create something, every time you share with someone, there is a huge opportunity. And I mean, that's all I would really have to say about that. I feel like Amira said so many things that I was thinking about, and a lot of things that I wasn't thinking about when it comes to art. But yeah, I that's the role that I claim is in the healing practices that we're going to need to transition us to another society and another world.
I have to make note of the fact that Everybody Looking was a National Book Award finalist and a Printz honor. And I've been on those committees, so I know how hard those and how seriously the committees read those books and try to get those books that are the best representation of literature for young people. So how was that for you? For your first book, how was that for you?
Honestly, I couldn't believe it. Everybody should just like talk to my agent and my editor, because I didn't believe it. Everybody else was just like, yeah, look at this. And I'm just like, what does that mean? What? Me? Like, it's very shocking to me to be receiving honors on my first book. But the thing I like about awards and honors is that my story reaches people that may not have ever paid attention to it. And so I like that part very much. And I'm always also thinking about like my old students and what it might be like for them to be seeing this happen, because I know when I was their teacher, they were not believing any of this like writing, creativity, book BS at first. Like they were just not feeling it. And I believe that a big part of that is because they didn't see anybody that looked like them doing what I'm doing. So it was hard to make it real. So I enjoy winning for that small fact, is that like my story goes farther, and also that hopefully my students get to see me win, because I wasn't lying to them when I said they could do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really great message for them, and reinforcing when we try to tell kids, oh, you can do anything, and they think like, yeah, right. But when they see it actually happen, it does make it a bit more real for them. So I totally can see that. And Amira, the first poem in Concrete Kids, this is for the Concrete Kids, is such a heartfelt embrace of kids who are seldom embraced. And how can we influence the adults in their lives to see them the way you saw them in that poem?
I mean, that was a huge part of writing Concrete Kids the way I did, it's quite direct. I was like, pause, let me see. I was trying to write a manifesto. I write a million manifestos whenever I'm doing something. It's like I question my intentions at every stanza to make sure that I'm in alignment with my mission. And so that is one of the first things that was written in the whole book. And it's unedited. I said, who is this for? Because everybody kept asking me. And I said, I don't think y'all understand what it was like being raised in Harlem. We're all there and we all matter. And we are all aware in the silence of what's going on in broad daylight, And so I think people need to understand that children are facing things that they may never give language to. So teachers need to pay a lot more attention. Like I was one of many foster kids in my schools. I was one of many abused children in my classrooms. Did we sit there in third grade and start being like, yeah, no. And I think that so much goes unspoken, and therefore there's so much grace and so many opportunities to build safety in oneself, in one's intellectual experience of living, in one's understanding, because a lot of children, regardless of what they've seen, are hoping that someone will see them for what's really going on, whether they have the language or not, and so that's why I put that piece right there. You can't read this book past the reality that we exist. You know, I am multiple of those children that I named, you know, but I was raised with so many people, and there was joy, and there was tenderness, and there was play, and there was excitement, you know. And I think I really wanted to name us so that after that we can walk forward knowing that there is grace. You are holding this book. The cover is so intentional. Everything was so intentional. But yeah, I think, sorry, I get excited about that because I'm just like, yo, like, we have to just relax and understand that children, they're not intellectually, they don't need diluted anything, you know. They're there going through realer circumstances than a lot of these people who are brought into the hood to teach, you know. And I think that the second we surrender to the fact that we may not know the full story, we may not know the story at all, we may not know, they may not even know that there's a story to tell, you know. We are creatures of habit and environment, you know. If violence is present, it's present. And that doesn't mean that I can daydream myself out of that unless I know that I can. And so I invite teachers, adults, parents of friends, you know, kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, pay attention, ask questions, and do not expect the answer. Wait for the answer and listen and listen and listen and really understand that, like, you know, they're witnessing the same world we are. And we are in a time where most of us who are over the age of damn 12, we are out here losing our minds. We don't know what's going on. So we can't question the realities that children are also, you know, navigating while trying to finish their homework, you know? Right. But yeah, ask better questions and really listen for the answer. They speak when they're asked the right questions.
Yeah, and I think that they have to feel that there is a safety and there's a safe space to give that answer. Mm-hmm. Not going to be exploited or used against them. And I think that's what comes across in that poem. You feel so embraced. It feels like you're embracing them in that poem. So it really touched me so much. And Candace, you know, getting back to poetry, did you know from the beginning that verse was the best way to tell Ada's story?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I came into writing as a poet, and you know, I'm gonna be a poet for life, and so I didn't know how to write a novel at first. I still question my ability to write a novel to this day, and so I was looking for a way to tell a fuller story in the format that I knew best, which was poems. I'm also a person who's very matter of fact, very direct. And so I love brevity and I love to not waste anyone's time with what I'm trying to share with them. And as an educator, I also learned very quickly that not to waste kids' time, right? So like, I felt like the best way to get this story in front of the kids that I wanted to have read this story was to put it into language that just was not extra. It's plain as day right there. And it also at the same time gives lots of room for them to input themselves into the story.
When I read it, I kept thinking that there was such an immediacy about the poetry that it just really got you right to the heart of the matter. So when you say I'm direct, you know, it comes across so much in the poetry. In addition to being kind of a direct and really forceful, because it's not a lot of wasted words. It's really the words that get to the emotions. What does poetry do for you in that way? Is that what it does for you as well?
What does poetry do for me? I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question with what you said, because I think poetry does so many things for me. I personally, I read poems out loud at home when I really need an extra pick-me-up. They feel like affirmation, and Amira said manifesto. Yes. My book feels like manifesto to me. It feels like something that I'm proclaiming to the world. And yeah, poetry to me gives me some of my power back every time I'm able to read it aloud, every time I'm able to choose the exact words that I mean. Every time that I'm able to make people feel all kinds of things without saying much, I think that poetry packs a punch. It makes me feel like I'm really doing something with my words.
I couldn't agree more, especially when you read, when I read the pages of Everybody Looking, I'm just, you're right there. You brings the reader in immediately. So you can see that connection that you have with those words that way. And Amira, one of my favorite lines in one of the poems from Concrete Kids is, I'm going to read it because I want to get it right. Every family wants a blank slate, but when you have danced in the shadows I've known, everyone is scared of the day you will finally react. The image of dancing in the shadows is so powerful, and it describes the experience of so many of our kids. Could you explain, am I getting that right? Is that what you meant, really giving that image of someone who's not quite being seen or whose experience is not quite seen?
Well, I think shadows have their grace every day, right? The sun, it moves, the light is shifting constantly, and so I feel like shadows, as much as any goal or mission or escape, I guess, is something you're constantly moving with,
Yes.
and
Me and my
I think
shadow.
it's something you carry, but you don't carry. It's something that follows you, but doesn't follow you. It's ever present. It's like the moon, you can almost never escape it. And then there's a time where you just don't see it for a while, and the moon just had to go somewhere, wherever she don't went, And so whenever I think about my life, a lot of people, again, they look at me and they see my circumstances. They'll read this book and they'll be like, there's pity everywhere. There's, oh my goodness, I just wish I could have held you and all this stuff. And I was like, yo, I wish you understood that I was a child after all. And I had a vast imagination. I was dancing, and Concrete Kids, that is super, concrete. We concreted this city. We took the soil away from the soles of our feet. We're supposed to be responding to the earth, and whenever I think of Concrete Kids or that hard exterior and this idea of being soft or tender or having to ease or thaw out, it's like I'm looking at the soil beneath the concrete. After all, I was a human. I laughed. I had a good time. I saw some movies, made some lifelong friends. I was living, and just because I can tell you the truth, I can tell you what the shadow looks like. I might even be able to tell you the intricacies of its face. That does not mean that I am not also experiencing light. Light can, I need both, and so I just think I loved that you caught that because, yeah, we were dancing there. We're dancing there regardless. You ain't gonna tell me that Sunday's not coming,
Yes. Yes, I just thought that image it stuck with me. It kind of leaped off the page at me and just really was such a great description for young people. We see them dancing and we think that there are no shadows. We see the bravado, but we don't see what's driving them to do that. So I thought it was extremely, extremely effective. So we've got some Q&A from some of our participants, and I'm going to ask a question for Candice from Mabel, who she kind of brought up that same idea of what directed you to write in poem form and with a variety of timelines instead of it being just a linear story. Why did you choose to do it that way?
I think one of the biggest reasons that I did that is because I feel like that's how I experience trauma. You can be grown, 33 years old, and someone can say something to you and you're a child suddenly again. You're 7 years old. You're back when the first person left you without saying goodbye, or the first time that somebody told you that you were ugly or that you were fat or that you were any of these things that stay with us. And so I wanted the reader to make connections between how Ada is showing up in the world as a growing adult and like what happened to her as a kid or what she experienced or saw as a kid that makes her show up to the world in this way. And, you know, it says, you know, it alludes to it in the beginning of the book, like she's going off to college with this vision that she's going to go out into the world and she's going to change everyone. The world's not going to affect her, and that she's just going to maintain the same person that she always was when she goes out there, and that she'll be able to leave all of that stuff from childhood behind. And it's not true. It's
Right.
like, you know, wherever you go, there you are, period. And so I wanted the reader to kind of be slapped with those triggers. Like every time she's in the present day and goes back to a childhood memory, it's very similar to how a lot of triggers function within us. Like it's hard for you to just go through like your life as an adult without having things, smells, sounds, people that remind you of things that you thought you forgot or that had no effect on you.
That's a really great way to think about that. And I have a question here from Rach for both of you. And it says, a lot of people are talking about hitting a quarantine wall currently. How are you finding ways to be creative in this moment?
Am I answering this first?
Well, you can start and then we'll go to Amira.
Okay. I'm struggling. I'm struggling every day. I'm grabbing at all of my tools. So like taking walks every day so I can see life happening around me is really important. It has been also really helpful for me to like open up all of my photography books, all my art books, and the thing so I can see images that inspire me. When I used to live in Brooklyn, I felt like I was just an endless well of ideas because you didn't have to make anything up when you're in New York. Like everything that you might like make up somewhere else that sounds ridiculous happens any day in New York. And so I have been really just having to tap into all the things that make me feel inspired, interacting with life somehow using art books, and also just consuming lots of film. I listen to a lot of music. It sounds really chaotic in my apartment intermittently because I'm just trying to, you know, rustle up a feeling. I'm an artist that is really moved by emotion. And so I need to make myself feel the things that I'm trying to portray, which can be really brutal sometimes when in our circumstances, because it's all happening within my house. So it's been a challenge. I can't say that I'm able to reach that point of inspiration every single day, but I mean, I'm pulling at all my tools.
I think that's all we're all trying to figure it out. You know, there's no one thing on any given day. How about you, Amira? How are you handling this time?
Honestly, it's been super interesting. You know, I've been on tour for 5 years straight. And I would have been on tour this year. I had like over 35 shows canceled. And I didn't realize until this era that I hadn't been still since graduation, which means I hadn't been still because I'd always been in school, always doing extracurriculars, always working. And then suddenly I was on tour and I was always traveling and always working, never quite anywhere. So this has been a dramatic shift. I moved back from London to New York in last March, like during the height of the pandemic. So that was, you know, again, like the settling. I'm a New York native. I left New York. That was huge. And then I returned to a New York I'd never seen in my whole experience of living, obviously. But to see an empty street in New York is like the most alarming thing. So I allowed myself to, you know, let myself take that time of arrival. And I've realized that the more tender I am in the way that I experience time, the more tender time can be to me, you know? And so that it was like this era where it was like every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. It's only gonna be 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. I was like, y'all are bugging. I'm gonna accept that we don't know and I'm gonna move forward. And so I've been really leaning into what I don't know. And I bought this, I'll show y'all my space. I think it was, I moved back here. I realized I didn't even care what kind of bed I had on tour. It was like, I'm in this hotel, I'm over here. Blah, blah, blah. It didn't matter. My comfort was not a priority. It couldn't be, And so I got here and I was like, hold on, we're going to be locked inside. I don't know if my landlord's okay with it, but I'll paint the walls white when I go. But I'm sorry, my walls need to be blue. They need to be orange. I need plants all around me. I bought a piano. I was like, I found a piano on Craigslist, y'all. I've never thought I could afford a piano. Here we go. And I keep things that inspire me or remind me of beauty or of death. I love keeping dead flowers around me. I watch them become something else, and so I think curating my space and, allowing myself to accept that there's not much else I could do, but the house I live in, my body needs to feel right. And what I see every day, if the walls are what I'm going to see, they need to look like angels, So I think being intentional, curating my space. I urge everybody, if you have a computer or anything, a phone, whatever you're watching this on, you could probably download some free music stuff. Like if you're a writer, like having instrumentals in the background is amazing. A piano, I don't know what the notes on this piano are, but I know that each sound gives me inspiration. And so Candice, I highly recommend a keyboard or using your computer keyboard, because having a vibration, even if it's not a word, even if it's not a sentiment, even if it's not a choreographed move, you can invite yourself and ignite yourself without always having to know what's going to happen. So yeah, curate your space, get some vibrations.
For both of you, who has been your inspiration and greatest influence on your creative journey? Candice, we're gonna let you start first.
Okay. So my greatest inspiration is probably all of the kids that I taught, because I never planned on writing YA. Mm-hmm. I never even planned on making writing a career. And yeah, I feel like being an educator exposed me to so many different kinds of children, and it allowed me to share space with them in a really intimate way. Luckily, I was a teaching artist. Like I chose to be a teaching artist over a classroom teacher, because I had more freedom to have dialogue in my class and not be up against the clock to fit all these activities into a given class period. And so I'm really, my greatest inspiration is definitely the kids that I taught, because I learned when working with them that they share the same pains that I have. And I am also just really deeply inspired by all the Black writers that I have ever come across. When I started to meet Black writers who believe in themselves somehow, and who treat their work as something that is serious and that is to be valued and that is very important and is to be prioritized, that opened up a whole nother world to me. And it's invaluable, having met my mentor, Jason Reynolds, and just meeting someone who was that close in age to me, who was just like, I'm a writer, period. Like that was so inspiring to me all on its own. And from there, I just was kind of picking up lots of inspiration from all of the kids that I work with, particularly high school kids.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Amira, and by the way, this question comes from Katie, so I just want to acknowledge Katie.
I think similar. I teach a lot of young people, and that's been a beautiful invitation to understanding the dire circumstances that have not changed in the education system and in the mental health access and communities that I am from. And so that has been, it built an urgency in me that never quite stopped. You know, I like I said, I've been on tour because I recognized that what I was saying, what I was experiencing, what I've come to know and the way I've come to know it is not something that people really know, but it's also not something that people can really digest without me. You know, like I felt like I had to be in person going around and around and around. And so I think every single person I've ever shared space with and had the honor of performing in front of, you know, they're the people who have reminded me that there's more than language, there's more than understanding, there's far fewer barriers than we could ever imagine. You know, and once we've allowed ourselves to speak, you know, I was a very quiet child, which alarms me every day, but I was very quiet. You know, I was experiencing and witnessing what exactly was happening to me, you know, and I think that what we do in our silences, what we do when we're waiting, that space has only been given to me by other people who have made me wait, who have made me question, who have made me stand and listen after a show or before class or something. But I also think, I remember Frida Kahlo was a huge inspiration for me when I was younger, because you can't teach Frida Kahlo or introduce her artwork without showing a very close proximity to death and suffering and mourning. But the colors that she used and the way that she did, and she was so audacious, you know, like she had so much audacity. Like it was like, wait, you can just paint your miscarriage on a canvas and be like, yo, that's what happened to me. I was suffering. Here's the pole that literally went through my body, but I'm standing in this desert that I was not in, you know, like she had such a way of being urgent and beautiful and vibrant. You can't miss me. We got to look at the wounds here, you know? And I always say, like, I feel like my work, the goal of my work is to look at the wound so that we can heal from it, you know? And after Concrete Kids and my album and all these things doing that, now because of the people, we're going to shift that into a gear of love and softness and tenderness. But it's the people who are receiving my vibration that constantly remind me that it's there at all.
Well, that's great. And Anna, my last question from the audience, or maybe I have one more. Oh no, this is the last one from Anna, who wants to know how physicality and movement impacts your work. I know it's a big theme in Everybody Looking, and also I would love for both of you to respond to that. How does physicality and movement impact your work? Candice? You want to start with that one?
I was trying to be polite and let Amira go first this time.
I think we're good.
Oh, okay. I got to go first. Oh, okay. I mean, everything comes down to the body for me. Mm-hmm. When I was saying earlier that I'm a writer that is moved deeply by emotion, I feel whenever I know that when something is wrong, I feel it first in my body. And so that's where I begin when it comes to telling stories. Like how does this character actually feel in this moment in their physical body? Is it in their head? Is it in their chest? Is it in the hips? Is it in the shoulders? Like, where is the tension? And outside of I guess in creating the story with that, I use movement for myself as just like a healing process that helps me get to kind of actually hear my thoughts, right? So I have to move that tension, move whatever thing that I'm navigating through my own body and out of my own body, so that way I can get clear enough to tell the story from a space that is stable, you know? And so I feel like physicality and space is just a really important part of my practice as an artist so that I can actually create. And in particular in this story, movement and physicality is huge because we're talking about both dance and trauma. And every therapist that I've ever had has dealt with where the trauma resides in my body.
Oh, that's amazing. Amira?
Similar. I'm very physical. Like before I sing or before I sit down to write, before I do anything, honestly, I check in, I land in my body. And I've come to build a great intimacy with myself that I don't know, has been quite unshakable. I do a lot of mirror work. I look at myself experiencing lots of different range of emotions. I look at myself as I sing. I look at myself as I'm thinking. If I'm about to have a breakdown, I'm at the mirror. I got to find out what she looked like, what I look like, because no one should know me better than me is my firm belief. And the aspects that they show me, I should at least know the color of the room. You know what I mean? So it's like, I want to know what I look like, because I realized for a long time that I was relying on other people's sight to tell me who I was, because I didn't spend that much time looking at myself. And then I woke up and was like, I'm older now. Okay, actually, let's pay attention to this body thing, because a new direction on my palm line, or a new beauty mark here, something I should learn to say hello to, because it doesn't just get there without me knowing, So I've tried my best. And I didn't try my best. I am doing my best to be acquainted with my body. And the more I do so, the freer my spirit is to play. And so, yeah, I've just been trying to understand that. And I think, something I do a lot as another person who's navigating trauma and building safety, there's so much safety that the body needs because it has memories that I don't recall. So I lotion my body really, 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 really slowly, like glacial. Well, historically glacial, slowly, like the environment. But like just really slowly. And I say hello to my body every day. Every day. If I forgot to do it after a shower, if I forget to do it before bed, and I invite y'all to remember, like, you're worth saying hello to, you're worth understanding, you're worth every single wrinkle and laugh line. Please say hello to your bodies, because you're more than anybody else, and you're more than what you've overcome, and keeping that true, regardless of everything. Any storm can come. You'll be like, well, I know I am prepared for this because I'm safe in this thing here,
Well, ladies, I just want you to know that this has been a transformative evening for me. It's really been more than the literature. It's been mind, body, and spirit. And
that's right.
I truly appreciate both of you, what you have created. And I feel like our young people are in good hands if they have writers who care about them as much as you do. So I want to wish you well. I'll be looking forward to, look at her. She's got her.
Oh no, your book is on my counter.
Look out. I promise.
So I just want to say that I have been so moved, and I'm just so delighted to have the opportunity to spend time with you and to have this conversation. And everyone who hears it, it will be a blessing to them, because you really brought it, and I really can't thank you enough. And so Heidi is going to just wrap it up for us. So thank you both so much.
Thank you. You're so tender. Thank you so much for your spirit.
Oh, thank you.
Love you, Deborah. Thank you so much to Amyra and to Candice and to Deborah. This really was such a magical evening. Thank you so much. Your words and your music are balm, and they are beautiful. So thank you so much for being here. Hope everyone goes to the chat box. You can still click on the book link so everyone can experience Amyra and Candice's words through their books. And we're so pleased that you could join us tonight. Thank you so much for being here. And we hope that the audience will continue to follow us and join more wonderful events like this. You can follow us on social media, and just keep reading widely and keep reading these wonderful words, and everyone be safe out there. So thank you so much.
Amen.